Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Jake. You can also call me Atrocious, and today we've got another round of the Spring 3v3 in the OP07 format in Japan. Excited for this one. In this round, we're going to have two teams facing off, essentially a full mirror match. Each of the three matches in the 3v3 being the same matchup: Red Purple Law mirror match, Black Yellow Luffy mirror match, and an Enel mirror match. We did see Red Purple Law and Enel in previous matches, so in this match we are going to be focusing on the Black Yellow Luffy mirror. Black Yellow Luffy, one of the more popular decks in the current format in North America, and then also out east in Japan, in North America and the rest of the West. Starter Deck 13 coming out not too long ago before the release of EB01. Players trying that deck, and now we are going to see it in its strongest form yet in the OP07 meta, continuously growing, just like Red Purple Law, continuously growing stronger and stronger with each set. Now, just for clarification purposes and transparency, this is not my actual live stream or content that I'm going to be using. This is the official One Piece trading card game YouTube channel, the official live stream that they did. If you do want to watch this and not hear my voice, you can check out the link in the description below for the official link to the stream. The games, there are all of them right here in this tournament, and I will not be making any monetary value. I'm just trying to get some practice for maybe, hopefully in the future, some official commentary, and also just learning the decks in general. But here we go in this one, the Black Yellow Luffy mirror match. Going to be really exciting in this one. Both of these, or well, I mean, I guess they're the same leader. This leader is a very cool leader in my opinion. I love all the starter deck 13 leaders. Red Yellow Sabo, my pet deck as of right now, but we'll just have to deal with this one, an exciting one nonetheless. It'll be curious to see how this deck goes, especially in the mirror match. What the techs are they prepared for the mirror match, and the instrumental cards in this matchup. So looking at the player's hands, this is the player on the left. They have a Rush Ace, a Brothers Searcher, which is nice. They also have the Baby Ace combo in their hand, as well as two other 5 costs, the Luffy from the starter deck, and also the Blocker Sabo, that being the manga rare. So a blinged out deck for sure on this one. I think that this is a pretty decent starting hand. I think you're pretty okay with this overall, and probably going to be looking for some draw, maybe thinking of a Baby Sabo in the Searcher, in the Three Brothers Searcher. That's probably one of your ideal points to get off of that turn one. I don't know who's going first, actually. I don't know if we've seen yet, but the player on the left, playing minimum rarity, a lot easier to tell which card is which in my opinion, has two Garps of their own and a couple different babies as well, with the 2-drop Luffy and 2-drop Sabo. Going to be really nice. That Luffy could be comboing with that 5-cost Luffy that is in the hand. So also not a terrible hand overall. I feel like at least when I'm playing a lot of the Red Yellow Sabo, I'm looking for a lot of those 2-card combo pieces with the 5 costs and the 2 costs, so having one of the two. So in the starting hand, if you have one of the 2 pieces and also a Searcher, you're in overall a pretty decent spot, at least for your first portion of the game. Now, Black Yellow Luffy does have the ability to draw cards more aggressively, as we see the player on the left going first, going to be playing that Searcher card. Looking at the top 3, or I'm sorry, the 5? Is it 5? It is 5, I'm sorry. Misspoke on that one. So looking at the top 5 and trying to find out which card they want. They do have that big Luffy in hand, so it makes sense that they would grab the small Luffy on that search, and then passing the turn off to the Luffy player. With 2 Dawn and a Baby Sabo top deck, it looks like, could just see 2 Garps being played right here. Looking at the top 5 and trying to find an Ace Sabo or Luffy, we see a Baby Luffy in the hand. Not too many other options. A big Luffy could grab. I think the baby Luffy is probably the one that you want to grab right in this matchup. I feel like it's probably really good to get as many evolutions as possible to boost up your leaders. So thinking about one of those two options, eyeing up potentially grabbing the big Luffy. The big Luffy could be nice to be able to use one in your hand as counter and then the other one in the leader effect into life, and going to be grabbing that big Luffy overall. So looking at another 5 from the Garp, as I mentioned. Looks like they got a couple options in hand. Another baby Luffy being seen. And is that an Egghead Luffy? It is. So the other 5-drop Luffy, the one that is new through OP07 in this archetype, the 5-drop Egghead Luffy, going to be actually going for the baby on this one. So grabbing 2 Luffys in their 2 searches, one big, one small. Going to be interesting on that. So now in the 3 Dawn turn right now, going to just be attaching all 3 to the Luffy and swinging. I don't hate this play. Just try to get something going, and a trigger right there of the searcher. So going to be looking at that top 5, just another search and grabbing a rush ace. I think that was the only option in that hand. A great option to grab on through this upcoming turn. Not this one, but their next one, as they're only on 4 Dawn right now. But now at 4 Dawn, just going to be swinging 5 at lead. And so going to be taking that one because with the Luffy, you do want to go down a little bit in life, and then attaching 3 to the Garp and swinging another 5. A little bit of poke damage, seeing if they can claim maybe 2 life or maybe another card. With that 1 Dawn, they do have another search brother search in hand that I believe they top deck. So just going to be doing a lot of looking a really strong start for the player on the right as they take that life and move into the search. So finding a baby Sabo, baby Ace, a lot of babies right here, 4 different options to be able to grab what you feel like is best for your game plan. And really thinking about what they want to do. I think the ace is probably the best option. You did get the big ace earlier off of the trigger search, so being able to have just another evolution at your disposal is so good, especially when it comes to the ace. The ace being one of the better evolutions that you can do. I mean, they're all good, don't get me wrong, but the ace being able to rush is really nice. So at the 5 Dawn turn now, going to be swinging 5 at lead, going to be taking this life. No trigger off of that one as they find a 5-drop Sabo, and going to be playing that 5-drop Luffy. The 5-drop Luffy going to be really good in activate main, gaining the 2000 power. Then I'm sorry, just kidding. Going to be passing off the turn onto the Garp. So now on the 6 Dawn turn right here, going to be thinking about what they want to do at 2 life. So that ace, that rush ace, is active. Going to potentially be swinging 6, maybe backing out of that, just swinging 5 to start out, saying, you know what, the difference between 5 and 6 with all these cards in hand, maybe not that much. So I'm going to redistribute my other Dawn and see what I can do. Could be surprising to potentially see a Sabo blocker come down at this point, maybe. And it looks like that is what they are going to do after they counter out of that one. So drawing 2 off the Sabo and then trashing 2, finding a Gecko Moira, which is really nice. And also it looks like a 2-cost Hiyori on that draw. So thinking about what you can trash overall, I think at this point you're trying to think about what potentially to use off of your leader effect in the coming turn. So that leader effect only happening when you're at 0 life, remember. So really try to think ahead. Okay, are they going to be hitting for 2 life? Who knows? And going to be popping an ace and another card. I didn't exactly see what that card was. I think it was maybe the 5-drop Luffy that they had grabbed earlier. We'll see if they ever fan out their discard pile as they pass it off to the 7 Dawn turn now for the player on the left. So 7 Dawn now has some searching options right here with that Garp that they're eyeing up. Could play a Sabo of their own, to be honest, in this turn. Can't really get down to 0 life at this point. So maybe going a little bit defensive with that Sabo, like I mentioned, just maybe doing a little bit of damage. You could use the Monkey D. Luffy activate main effect to draw one and get yourself down to 1 life overall to get a 6k swing from the leader and an 8k swing from the character. And off of this search effect, it's going to be a baby Sabo. So the baby Sabo going to be nice for that big Sabo that you have in hand that they had at the start of the game. Could be really good in this one. So I definitely think you're probably playing the Sabo at this point. I think the kind of play that I mentioned of the 6 and the Sabo going to be really good. And starting off with the Sabo swing right here, going to be drawing 2 and trashing 2. It looks like they accidentally dropped most of their hand on the floor by accident. So as they pick up the different cards. And so looking off of this draw, obviously we have to see what they draw. Drawing a Gecko and another card could be interesting what they discard. The thing about it is a lot of people may say like, oh, you don't want to discard the babies, you want to have them in hand to play down. It's actually not a bad idea to discard the babies, as we see right here, the Ace and the Luffy baby going away, because with the 8-drop Gecko, the 8-drop Gecko can get those baby cards from the trash. So really good play as of right now. 8 Dawn turn now for the player on the right. The Gecko is active if you have any babies in the trash. I don't think they do have any babies in the trash. The player on the left just not swinging at all in this one. So very interesting spot overall. And so player on the left thinking about where they should go, eyeing up 5 and 3. So more than likely maybe playing the Ace overall, that rush Ace, since they are at 2 or less life. The other 3 Dawn you could distribute in some form or fashion to your leader. Maybe swing with a Garp again, another 5k poke from that. I think maybe sectioned off 6 Dawn right there. So a couple different options that you could play. Looks like they're thinking about playing the Hiyori. So more than likely at this point looking at that life and then putting the Ace or one of the big 5-cost bodies in the life, and then using the baby in combination to be able to take away one of your life but also boost up your leader. So going to be playing that Luffy right there in that and drawing the card, activate maining and trashing that top life. Now going to 0 overall. So can use the leader effect at this point. Now that they're at 0 Dawn overall, and we'll see exactly what they want to do. They do have that Egghead Luffy in the trash and also a Rush Ace in there. So the Egghead Luffy could be really nice for KOing a 4-cost or less character, but I don't know if it's actually effective in this matchup. The reason for that is you notice this black yellow Luffy deck just playing really a lot of 5-cost characters, right? All of their big Ace, Sabo, Luffy cards are all 5-cost, so maybe just avoiding that Egghead Luffy and using the other 2 potentially that they have in this game. They could, in this, because of the leader effect, you do have to trash a card from your hand, so could trash a 5-cost character that they want to put in their life and then immediately send that character that they trashed from their hand into the life. So after that 2k boost, going to be at 9k power with this 2 attached Dawn right here on this swing, and still have 2 Dawn left to go if they want to play another baby at this point. So thinking about what they have in the trash right now, they have a Luffy and I think 2 Rush Aces. I think that was the second card of the 2 that I was confused about earlier, maybe wasn't sure. I think it was just 2 Rush Aces that hit the discard pile. So only 1 baby Ace in hand to be able to evolve, but we'll see where they want to play on this one. Could really just get that Egghead Luffy that we saw in there. Could be an interesting option to have in the life. and just kind of looking around. There's no Sabo in the hand, there's no Sabo in the trash, so no options for that baby Sabo to be able to evolve and put something, or evolve from something that is in your life named Sabo that is 5 cost or less, but maybe pitching this Sabo from the hand in general to put like the double ace in life. That could be another option that you could see in this one. Like I mentioned earlier, putting the babies in the trash do make your geckos online to be able to get those from the trash and put on the bench, and therefore with the second baby in trash, that gecko would have 2 baby options in the Luffy that's already in the trash right now, and then the eventual Sabo. So overall, maybe not a bad option to be throwing away. So in this match, you really got to be aware of what's in each player's trash. So asking, what are the resources available that I know, and a ace and a baby ace in the trash, as well as a baby Luffy in there. So really thinking about where they want to go. What's this card that they have in hand? I didn't see which one they picked up overall. Could be a little telling. It's the 5-drop Luffy. So I think really just trying to think about what card they want to trash off of the leader effect at this point. I think it's really just going to depend on maybe what they're trying to do. Are they trying to get a future with the 8-drop Gecko Moira, or are they trying to use a card that they can put in life right now? So opting for that Luffy to put in life, and it looks like they're going to put double Luffy in life. Interesting choices in that one, and going to be putting the 5-cost starter deck Luffy on top, and then playing the baby Luffy to evolve into that, and the leader Luffy now going to be swinging for 11k if they decide to swing, but instead passes the turn, saying, you know what, I'm just going to build the board. I'm going to do exactly what you did right in your previous turn, and I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to build this board up as high as I possibly can to be able to swing and apply as much pressure on you going into this turn. So at 9 dawn now, I believe the player on the left is going to go into their turn. Really a chess match at this point. Remember, through the black yellow Luffy effect, all face-up life cards go to the bottom of the deck. Player on the left using that 5-cost starter deck Luffy's effect to gain 2,000 power, draw 1 card, and trash the top of their life, trashing a important card. So now at 1 life left. The real crazy thing about this is, in this situation, you're at a point right now where the player on the left hasn't really easily been able to get to 0 life to use the leader effect similar to the player on the right, but they are going to be able to do that with that Charlotte Flampe, that EBO1 card, that draws 1 card and takes a card from the top of your life. So now at 0 life, the leader effect is active and online, and we could see it come into play. Looking at the hand right now, they do have 1 rush ace out of the cards that they have. 1 rush ace and 1 baby ace as well, 2 baby Luffys, and then at least 1 baby Sabo. They might have a second one actually in hand. They do have a second one overall in their hand to be able to utilize. So a couple different options right now, but going to be using one of the Dawn to play the Garp. Looking in here, ooh, do they find something? And they do find a 5-cost Sabo. Very, very nice to find there through your babies, and probably going to be using the leader effect and evolving one of the baby Sabos, I would imagine, in this one. Also have 5 Dawn shifted to the side to be able to use. Going to be using leader effect to put a ace and Sabo up at the top, and then using 2 Dawn to play this baby Sabo and evolve. It's going to put that big Sabo on the field, protect all of your cares from KO effects, and also draw 2, trash 2, doing a little bit of hand filtering and drawing while getting another blocker on the field for really only 2, or technically 4 Dawn, I guess you could say, if you count the Dawn used on the leaders. So going to be trashing 2 cards, eyeing up trashing the ace, and it's going to be that rush ace and a baby Luffy that's going to be trashed in this one. Going to also maybe be evolving with the Sabo, going to be using the baby Sabo to rush with that Sabo, the big rush one. And so you go down to 0 life at this point, but the thing about this situation is with 1 extra Dawn and swinging 9,000 overall at life, you're going to be able to put a lot of pressure, and you have a couple blockers on the field right now with a decent amount of cards in hand. So that 9k swing going to just be a 1k counter, because remember that leader is 1k, and that 11k swing is going to proc the Sabo blocker, now moving into the player on the right's turn. So the player on the right now at an opportunity with the player on the left being at 0 life. A 9k leader though going to have an interesting spot of what they can do. Looks like they're eyeing up the Gecko play right now. Going to be playing the Gecko, getting the Sabo and the Luffy on the field. So getting rid of 2 of the Garps, using the potential baby Luffy leader. They should be a 10 Dawn. Yeah, make sure you get your Dawn out before you do much else. Going to be evolving the Luffy to play that Egghead Island Luffy, and then on that does have that activate main, place the character in your trash. If you are at 2 or less life, KO up to opponent's cost 4 or less character. It doesn't really proc on that, but you do get the draw 1 card. So the draw 1 card is just that valuable for the player on the right now, that they're able to use that effect. You will be able, with the 2 Dawn on your leader now, you will be able to put that Luffy back in life at least. So getting back to 2 life. Looks like going to be pitching the Rush Ace to go ahead and put the Sabo and Egghead Luffy again in the life, and then evolving in the Sabo. So at this point now, you are also back at 9,000, really just trying to aggressively draw cards to chain maybe these Geckos to get all of these babies down. And this 11k swing now is going to proc a Sabo block. So really, I feel like in this right now, you're at a point in this game where it's a lot of it is like, are you going to be able to miss, right? Especially with the 8 drop Geckos, who's going to miss first? So we'll see exactly how this goes, as this 6k swing is going at this 6k Luffy right here on the other side. Actually, wait, did they draw? Did they use the Luffy effect to trash a life? Because if my memory serves correctly, they did use this Luffy effect. So this should be an 8k body right here, and this is only 6k, I'm pretty sure. Then if you have 1 or more life, draw 1 card. Maybe they used it when they were at 0 life and I didn't even notice. Maybe they used this effect when they were at 0 life to not draw a card at all, but at least gain 2,000 power. Maybe I just missed that, because they did get the KO on that Luffy there. So I think that's probably a safe assumption overall. Probably did it with both of the Luffys, if I had to take a guess, while they were at 0 life, or at least one of them. I'm not 100% sure. But assuming that both of those Luffys are at 8,000 power until the start of their next turn, the player on the left, after drawing for turn, is going to play that Gecko. The Gecko is going to find a couple babies to put on the field. It looks like a Luffy and Sabo are the 2 choices. Going to be getting rid of the Garp and playing both of those down. And with the 2 Dawn, just like we've seen in the previous turns, going to be using leader effect, getting rid of the Egghead Luffy to grab a Sabo and 5 cost starter deck Luffy in there. So going to be playing that starter deck Luffy, and then evolving once again into the Sabo, getting a second Sabo back in the game, and then protecting all the characters. So going to be doing the draw 2, trash 2, cards flying everywhere, a lot of alternates right now, a couple Luffys in hand, but going to be trashing the big Ace and baby Luffy. So it looks like they also just use the Luffy effect from what I could tell. Going to be swinging 11 at lead and passing the turn. So Now with both players both at 10 Dawn, the player on the left looks like to have somewhat an advantage simply because of the multiple blockers that they have going on, just a couple more bodies overall. And so this 9k swing here going at lead. Remember that the player on the left's leader is a 9,000 power body, so all you have to do is just a 1k counter, and that's what they're going to do with that baby Sabo right there. The player on the right, though, does have another Gecko to be able to utilize, and I think 2 Emporio Ivankoffs in their hand at this point. So we'll see if they end up revealing the Ivankoffs that they have in their hand, or maybe use it through the leader effect later in the turn, but going to be dropping that 8 for the Gecko, like I mentioned. And so playing now 2 Geckos overall, going to be grabbing a Luffy and a Sabo. So really interesting now, putting the Sabo over that Luffy, going to be using the Luffy effect to trash that character, not KO anything, but draw a card. It looks like maybe they missequenced it a little bit at this point, doing a little bit of mixing up by accident on there because they forgot to attach the Dawn, they forgot to trash. Remember, sequencing very, very important in this deck. You need to make sure that when you're playing this that you do things exactly right. So I think just fixing up the game state a little bit real quick, just trying to see what they want to do, and it looks like maybe a judge getting involved in this one. So I think what they're trying to do right now, I think they're allowing them to kind of take it back overall, try to fix things up, and it looks like they did get it fixed overall. Going to be using the Gecko and then using the baby Luffy effect to go down to 0 life, draw that 1 card, and now using leader effect to trash the 1 card, get a double Sabo involved potentially in there. Going to be evolving at least one of the Sabos to get a blocker on the field, go back to 9k overall, and drawing 2 and trashing 2. Going to be trashing a 3 Brothers Searcher and another card. So with this 11k swing, going to be passing the turn after a block right there, only having 1 Sabo to the player on the left's 2. So really interesting spot right here, this kind of swing back and forth that we've got going on. A couple 2ks in hand for the player on the right and a bunch of babies to evolve. Player on the left right now, no Gecko in hand at this point, so you're at a slight disadvantage from that, but you're at 0 life, so you're free to use your leader effect at any point when you want to. Trying to think about what is the best option for the leader effect. Probably, I would imagine, the blocker Sabo overall, and while they're still at 0, going to be using that Luffy effect to put him up to 8,000. Being able to get this Luffy up to 8,000 so often, so frequently, whenever you want, is just such a strong situation for this card. One of the reasons why the starter deck 13 is so valuable, right, as a product, and definitely one that I would recommend that you get if you can get it at an affordable price. If you're not looking for max rarity decks, definitely something that you can get cheap if you just get the starter deck itself. So thinking about where they want to go, I do think potentially getting the Sabo back is a good strategy right now, right? You want to continuously get your evolutions going in this game, but especially without a Gecko, using leader effect and then also playing down 2 babies is going to be a 3-card combo that you have to utilize from your hand. So that would really put you down. Let's see, you have 5 cards right now in hand, so that would put you down to 2 cards in hand, 2 or 3 depending on how many are right now in their hand, going into your opponent's next turn, and the player on the right having 2 Geckos out and one of these starter deck Luffys of their own could be really tough to get around in this situation. So maybe the player on the right actually has the advantage, but attaching 1 Dawn and swinging 10 now at lead, going to be forcing at least a 2k counter out of the player on the right's hand. And it looks like the player on the left actually has 6 cards in hand right now. So that combo that I was talking about earlier, if they decided to do it, would require 3 cards from their hand and only leave 3 cards left. They do have a couple 2Ks though, so still some valuable cards overall, but is a trickier situation in this one. So thinking about just pitching the Hiyori, not needing the Hiyori, and a quick 2K to get out of it, is thinking about what they want to do with the rest of their Dawn right here. Probably going to be distributing it evenly through the Ace and the Luffy, doing some swinging. Going to be using leader effect, pitching that Egghead Island Luffy, putting the Sabo and Luffy in life. So going to be playing the first baby, going to be the Luffy, and playing that guy down. Going to be taking that KO effect for just drawing a card, getting some value on that, and then looks like playing the baby Ace to finish off the evolutions to draw 2 more cards and protect all your characters. So after drawing the Flampe off of the baby Luffy, finding a Gecko, but the Gecko's not going to help you now. You don't have 8 Dawn to be able to utilize the Gecko, and so the player on the left is in a really interesting spot right now. If they feel like they can get out of this upcoming turn, the Gecko, keeping the Gecko in hand is really, really strong. But if you're worried about not being able to get out and you want as much counter as possible, like they're probably thinking right now, pitching the Gecko is probably the best idea. The Gecko not having any counter on it, not going to help you on the defense at this point. And so now an 11K swing, going at, I think, the Gecko, right? The rested Gecko, saying to the opponent, I got to stop these swings. So getting the Sabo, that's still somewhat valuable overall, attaching 3 Dawn, swinging another 11K, I think, at this Gecko. Just try to clear board at this point in the game. Say, you know what, I'm in a position to where I need to have as many cards as possible in my hand and need to utilize as little counter as possible on this defense. I do have 2 blockers, I'm sorry, and then 3 2K counter cards, as well as what looks like a baby Sabo overall, I think, is in the hand as well, in that 4-card hand. And so the player on the right thinking about, do I keep this Gecko or do I get rid of it? If you keep the Gecko right now, you will be able to utilize it in the swing, but it will cost you 2 cards, I believe, a 2K and a 1K, if you so choose. Thinking about just letting it get KO'd, the 2K and the 1K, you don't have many 2Ks in hand, I think only 1, so opting to keep the counter in the hand, drawing a 2K off of the life, which is very, very nice. And so going to be thinking about what they want to do. Going to start off with that Sabo evolution to draw 2 and trash 2. Finding another Sabo, which could be really good, but you don't have another baby Sabo to evolve into that one. So instead of potentially, it looks like they are going to keep it, going to get rid of the Ivankov and another card. I'm not sure what that other card was, but keeping the 2K. And while they're at 0, boosting the power of that Luffy, I would imagine that they're going to hard play the big Sabo on this turn, maybe use the leader effect, pitch a card from their hand, use the Ace for the evolution, right, to become a 9K leader again and be able to combat the player on the left, and then maybe hard play the Sabo to be able to just keep up the pace of the blockers overall. It will be tough at this point, really just back and forth overall in this one. I really love this mirror match. This is an exciting mirror match overall. Probably not fun to play because it's a lot of thinking, but as a caster and a viewer, this is very interesting, the different games that you play on this one. So thinking about the Dawn, going to be attaching the 2, like I mentioned, using the leader effect, pitching the blocker Sabo, so not hard playing the Sabo, like I had mentioned earlier. Potentially could see 2 aces come out on the field, and they are. It looks like they're probably going to baby twice to become an 11,000 power leader. Holy smokes, going to be doing 1 ace, putting that ace on the field. Going to be doing 2, do I see 2? Coming in right now, going to be swinging a 9 at this point, maybe leaving 1 life up on the field and redistributing the 4 Dawn that they have overall. And it looks like a judge is reaching across the table? Oh, it looks like time was called in there. So it looks like the player on the right is turn 0 and the player on the left is going to block out of that 11k swing with the 9k leader. So going to be thinking about what this could do. Very interesting in time rules with a deck that can propel itself up to 2 life. It really just comes down to, I think, especially if you can't finish the game in the extra 3 turns, who is the final turn, right? Because theoretically in the final turn, if after 3 turns it is decided by who has more life, the player who's going with the black yellow Luffy, who is turn 3, has the inherent advantage because they can just add 2 life, just really like apply a ton of pressure to be able to get the player on the other side that was turn 2 to just, you know, use as much counter, maybe take as much life as possible, and then just use the leader effect, put 2 cards in life, end the turn, and then therefore the game ends with you having 2 life and your opponent probably having 2 less or less than 2. So really, really interesting spot as well with the time rules. I didn't even think about this heading into this matchup right here. So we're seeing a little bit more methodical thinking from the players now that they're at overtime overall. 4 Dawn left to utilize in this one. Going to be attaching maybe at least 1 Dawn with the Gecko Moira to be able to swing, and we'll see how this goes. They do have potentially 3 swings left after the Gecko, right? If they swing a 9 right here, they can attach 1 to the Luffy, swing another 9, and then attach another 2 to the Ace to swing another 9. So going to be attaching 1 and swinging 10 with the Gecko. With the map that I was saying earlier, apologies, it's actually going to just be 2 swings. And so the Gecko 10k swing is going to force just a 2k out of there, the player on the left having a couple other 2ks, and another 9k swing coming in with the Luffy. So going to be another 2k counter right there. And so with 2 Dawn left, what are they thinking about doing at this point? Probably not going to use the baby to evolve into the other Ace, probably just want that Ace in life at this point. It just helps them out, be able to survive in the game. Thinking about where to attach this 2 Dawn. If you attach the 2 Dawn to the Ace, you will be able to swing at life because it'll be a 9,000 power body, that Ace having a base power of 7,000 overall, so could be good. But maybe even thinking about, what if I go for a character, right? If I go for a character, would it help me overall be able to stay alive going into this next turn, right? Because I only have 3 cards in hand and 1 blocker. Going to be swinging 9 right here and thinking about what they want to do, whether they're going at life or a character right here, is just going to be a 2k counter to get out of it and passing the turn to the player off the left. So the player off the left being turn 1 now out of the 3 extra turns, going to be drawing for turn, finding a something or other. I don't know exactly what they found, but thinking about distributing the Dawn, only 1 blocker on the field and 3 cards in hand could be very nice for the player on the left, especially because they have a baby Sabo in hand, could use an evolution to boost up power on the leader, and going to start off with an 11k swing off of the Gecko, attaching 2 Dawn. The draw for turn was that 5 cost starter deck Ace. So thinking about now with this 11k swing, you are a 9k leader, so you can give 2 cards, right? The Machina or Flappe and the 1k baby Ace that you have. Or you could go ahead and block. Another option that you could do is allow this life to go at the bottom of the deck, and it looks like that's what they're going to do. They're going to take that life and put it at the bottom of the deck. So with the rest of the Dawn still have a blocker available to them. And the good thing about this situation as well, you are still a 9k body. The opponent's Luffy, the one that is attacking the player on the left, is only a 5K leader, right? No baby evolutions at this point in time. So at that base power listed on the card while you're still sitting at 9. So honestly, a decent advantage for you at that point in that aspect as well. And going to be probably an 11K swing, right? Using the Luffy effect to go up 2,000 and then attaching 3 Dawn for an 11K swing at lead. Again, like I mentioned, could pitch 2 cards overall in this. They only have 5 Dawn left at this point, so ending up blocking off this, keeping the cards in hand at this point, and especially with 5 Dawn left, only going to be able to, I think, swing. How many times can you swing? You can swing 2 more times, adding 2 Dawn to the Ace to swing, and then adding 3 Dawn to the Sabo to swing. That would be, I think, the only way that you can get the evolutions off, but you wouldn't be able to use leader effect, you wouldn't be able to use the babies, and attaching all 12 power to the Ace and swinging at lead, they're going to be able to counter out of it. 2Ks to go up to 13, and using the... Are they using, and it looks like they actually just scooped, and it looks like seeing the writing on the wall, the player on the right winning that game right there, being able, really interesting, especially in that situation. The babies really factoring in. I thought the advantage was to the player on the left, but then just being able on your previous turn to evolve those babies a couple times and really boost up your leader, even when you didn't have card advantage, proved to be really strong overall and really help you out as the turns continuously reset the leaders and putting them back to a 5,000 power base. It, instead of like kind of who missed Gecko first, it was really who didn't get the babies first, right? That was really what it came down to there. And so the team on the right doing a clean sweep of the team on the left there. Very good job. Well, I mean, the mirror matches, the team on the right won all of the mirror matches because they were all, again, mirror matches. The red, purple law, the black, yellow Luffy, and the Nell. So excellent job to them as they advance. We'll go on to the next round, give you a little preview of what's to come next. It looks like in this one, almost a mirror match. So we saw this match earlier, the Gecko Moria and the Nell. We saw that one. We saw the Black Yellow Luffy mirror match previously, just moments ago. And then the Red Purple Law, we haven't seen that mirror match, but we have seen this deck showcased. And I would be curious to see how that mirror match goes. The next round is going to be the Red Purple Law mirror match. So subscribe and stay tuned for the next video, which will be that match. Thank you again so much for watching. Again, if you want to watch the official stream, link is in the description below. And yeah, hope you have a great rest of the day.